This guy's sick. There's something mentally wrong with this guy.
Yeah, you know what they say about divorcees. Right, Stan? It's funny how when you run your mouth about something, years later it comes back and bites you. But we have another offering from Face Bloat Stan Seder. Um, and this will be on immigration. His tact on immigration, I think, is like on most things, which is why he's not married anymore. Uh, Having a little autistic hissy fit and pounding the table and beating your chest. And he's not very intimidating at that anyway. He's kind of fat. And with that mustache, he kind of looks like, how do I put this? I don't know. It looks like he belongs on a milk carton or something. Or he looks creepy. Stan, with that mustache, you look like a creep. If I had a daughter your age and she brought you home, you put it this way, you wouldn't be allowed on the property anymore. And I'd only have to say it once. But Stan Seder on immigration, his tact on that is quite obvious. Just bring in as many unskilled people as he can and just say, look at all the free stuff we're going to give you. I mean, wow, that's brilliant, Stan. I mean, that's something like a 12-year-old could think of. Just bring in as many unskilled people as possible. This isn't like the 1910s and 1920s when we brought in immigrants that could actually do stuff, and they learned English, and they were responsible, and they had intact families. That's the main part. And they weren't on drugs either. I mean, drugs have always been around, but it's running rampant in America now. And Stan really doesn't care because he hasn't had a real job for, what, 16 years now, Stan? Do you remember at Air America when you got your own show? And when you put your video response up, Fat Boy, you can tell everybody where you think I got this. But he was going around telling people, I'm the next Rush Limbaugh. I'm going to be a Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh, better watch how I got to talk to. I'm going to be a Rush Limbaugh. Well, what happened, Stan? As soon as they kicked Janine Garfield to the curb, the whole thing went down the tubes. As soon as they trusted you with a big show at Air America, it went down the toilet. I mean, it would have anyway, but you just hastened it, like your marriage, for example.
And you know what they say about divorcees? A hypocrite.
But the Democrat Party has seized upon this because at one point they were very it was a big part of the Democrat Party to not just let people stream over the border. And now they've decided, well, we can't win elections fair, so let's see if we can bring in 10 million people that can't speak English and are barely able to wipe their rear ends. I know that's harsh language. You can't say that. That's mean. And we're going to have an autistic fit over that, and we're going to complain about it and try to get you shut down because you can't. The Democrat Party has become the equivalent of a mentally ill child throwing that last-ditch little fit trying to get the pony at the store. And they are going to throw carts around, and they're going to scream and holler and just make fools of themselves, and they're going to get that pony, even though they're not. What they're going to get is the back of the hand right in the yellow teeth from mommy. And I must also mention this child that I'm using is a microcosm, an example of the Democrat Party. Daddy was never around. So Stan Seder, he's a microcosm of his own political beliefs. Now he's been doing a little internet show where he begs for donations because, you know, Larry Elder and Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin, they have to beg for donations. Oh, wait, they don't. Because if Stan put all his stuff behind a paywall, guess what, Stan? Nobody would watch it. So, oh, fun fact, Stan's kids even laugh at him when he gets mad and yells at him. I'd laugh at you too, Stan, even if you were 25 again and there's nothing you'd do about it. That would be funny to see, though. But the Democrat Party, people are allowed to change their minds. Now, when it comes to Stan Seder, when people change their minds on something and he likes it, their views evolve. But if they don't like it, if he doesn't like it, he has a little hissy fit and throws the word hypocrite around. Like, people aren't allowed to change their minds, like with Kim Davis. She'd been divorced several times. I could draw an example with this, a similarity, comparison with, and I'm not comparing her with this guy, but the guy who wrote Amazing Grace. he used to own slaves. And he came to the conclusion that that's wrong. Well, you can't criticize slave owners now because you used to own slaves. It's like nobody's allowed to change their mind. And except unless it's something Stan likes. Now, the Democrat Party has changed their minds on immigration from the staunch view that we follow the rule of law to the view now, well, we just let everybody in, and we're going to make sure, because the people streaming over the border are aren't highly educated. Stan Seder knows this. They're idiots like him and useless. We don't have Mexican doctors, Mexican professionals, engineers sneaking over the border under the cloak of night. Now, I suppose Stan he'll go on a Google search and I'm going to find an article where an engineer snuck over, and I'll prove you wrong. Well, yeah, you better find about a couple million of them. Most of the people sneaking over the border at the dead of night aren't engineers. They aren't highly educated people. They're like Stan. They have little future, because Stan's been sitting on the internet for 16 years now and begging for views. So it's quite pathetic. But what we're going to do now is I need to mention this first. Like, when I changed my mind on the war on drugs, I didn't do it to curry favor with anybody. Unlike Stan, my motives are pure. I did it because it's wrong. Stan wants more illegal aliens that have no future and can't do anything because they'll be easy to manipulate. It's like Tucker Carlson said, and Stan, you're part of this too, because you've got a fragmented family and a failed marriage. The Democrat Party fears intact families because they're a threat to their power structure. Now, intact families, you can go up to them and feel their pain and say, I'm really compassionate. I don't pay the cost, but I'm really compassionate, and I'm going to get someone else's money to pay for it. So if you come to the border with a sob story and 3 bastard children in tow, Stan's got somebody else's money for you because he doesn't pay the cost, but he's really compassionate. So we're going to play something the Larry Elder Show. I listen to Larry about half the time. I don't have time to listen to him every day, so he may have played this 5, 6, 7 times, but I've heard this twice since the new year. This expanded montage he will play exposing the Democrat Party as hypocrites on immigration. Because now they say, well, we can allow millions of people in and get millions of votes and control the country and run it into the ground, and free healthcare and free housing and free internet and free education and free Ritalin and free everything, infinity. That's all they are now. And then after that, I'm going to tack on a video where I'm responding to a guy who doesn't have any teeth, where he was saying, we're done now because Donald Trump won't allow caravans of people over the border just willy-nilly. We're done now. Well, Obama was pretty good. When Obama was president, he didn't want millions of people streaming over the border, so he deported a lot of people, as did Bill Clinton. But now, it's not that way. I've got actual stats, by the way. Actual stats. So, and I'll put a link, or I won't put a link up, but I'll put a screenshot of the video before I do it, so you can go look at that. But enjoy. And Stan Seder, dude, I think you need to lay off that expensive-looking wine in a cheap bottle, and maybe get some exercise, fat boy. I know it's probably hard in New York City because they've got you locked down and you're stuck on the subway. Do you even own a car? I don't know. I haven't been able to find out if this fat guy owns a car or not, but one more thing real quick. I was wrong. I said Stan's never created a job in his life, and somebody corrected me and said Stan has 2 autistics in the studio with him. They pays like, I don't know, $15 an hour to nibble at his ear while he recites talking points off MSNBC. So get a load of this hypocrisy.
This guy's sick. There's something mentally wrong with this guy.
Damn.
Some of you are old enough to remember the legendary Congresswoman Barbara Jordan from Texas. She was on a commission to look into what we should do about the issue of illegal immigration. And at a press conference in 1995, Barbara Jordan talked about the commission's recommendations. Sure sounded a lot like Donald Trump.
The Commission has concluded that a properly regulated system of legal immigration is in the national interest of the United States. The Commission recommends significant redefinition of priorities and reallocation of admission numbers to fulfill more effectively the objectives of our immigration system. Now, to be specific, the Immigration recommends a tripartite immigration policy that permits the entry of nuclear family members.
Before you call her racist, I should point out that Barbara Jordan was black.
Professional and skilled workers and refugees. We propose core immigration levels of 550,000 per year. The Commission emphasizes nuclear family. We recommend as a priority
Nuclear family as opposed to what's been now called chain migration.
The closest family members, spouses and minor children of citizens of legal immigrants and parents of citizens are admitted as expeditiously as possible. I urge the Congress to adopt tough policies needed to verify employment authorization. What the Commission is concerned about are the unskilled workers in our society in an age in which unskilled workers have far too few opportunities open to them. When immigrants are less well educated and less skilled, they may pose economic hardships for the most vulnerable of Americans, particularly those who are unemployed or underemployed. And the Commission sees no justification to the continued entry of unskilled foreign workers unless the rationale for their admission otherwise serves a significant national interest, as does the admission of nuclear family members and refugees.
Sounds pretty xenophobic to me. Now, I've gotten a number of letters about our immigration Democrat montage, and we've integrated Barbara Jordan into that montage.
Those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
I think we can enforce our borders. I think we should enforce our borders.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant? No sane country would do that, right?
Got a couple of different issues. We're talking about, do we have a commitment to secure the border? Yes. What are the options that we have available to us? Let's make sure they work. Because we do, while we need to address the issue of immigration and the challenge we have of undocumented people in our country, we certainly don't want any more coming in.
In approaching immigration reform, I believe we must enact tough, practical reforms that ensure and promote the legal and orderly entry of immigrants into our country.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
To have a situation where 40% of the babies born on Medicaid in California today are born of illegal immigrants creates a very real problem for the state, which is in deficit.
Look, of course you can enforce the borders.
Let me finish.
I agree.
To have 17% of our prison population at a cost of $300 million a year be illegal immigrants who come here and commit felonies. That's not what this nation is all about.
Do we have a commitment to secure the border? Yes. What are the options that we have available to us? Let's make sure they work.
We all agree on the need to better secure the border and to punish employers who choose to hire illegal immigrants.
That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before.
And the Commission sees no justification to the continued entry of unskilled foreign workers unless the rationale for their admission otherwise serves a significant national interest.
No sane country would do that, right?
I continue to believe that we need stronger enforcement on the border and at the workplace.
All illegal aliens present in the United States on the date of enactment of our bill must quickly register their presence with the United States government or face imminent deportation.
That means a workable, mandatory system that employers must use to verify the legality of their workers.
We will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
I urge the Congress to adopt tough policies needed to verify employment authorization.
When we use phrases like undocumented workers, we convey a message to the American people that their government is not serious about combating illegal immigration. If you don't think it's illegal, you're not going to say it. I think it is illegal and wrong.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship and guarantee of full access to all public and social services this society provides. And that's a lot of services. Is it any wonder that 2/3 of the babies born at taxpayer expense at county-run hospitals in Los Angeles are born to illegal alien mothers?
So, that's why we need to start by giving agencies charged with border security new technology, new facilities, and more people to stop, process, and deport illegal immigrants.
We certainly don't want any more coming in.
A biometric-based employer verification system with tough enforcement and auditing is necessary to significantly diminish the job magnet that attracts illegal aliens to the United States.
By cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens.
Right now, we've got millions of illegal immigrants who live and work here without knowing their identity or background.
But we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop.
When immigrants are less well educated and less skilled, they may pose economic hardships for the most vulnerable of Americans, particularly those who are unemployed or underemployed.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked, and circumventing the line of people who are waiting patiently, diligently, and lawfully to become immigrants in this country.
A hypocrite.
Hey everybody, it's Old Fart, your old buddy. How you doing?
You stupid idiot!
So it's time for another fact check on Dave, old Dentures Dave. Now, when you read what he wrote under his video, I'm not going to say any of this, I think Dave thinks that just having an autistic fit and pounding the table and throwing stuff around constitutes an argument. As Stefan Molyneux would say, not an argument. Well, you read what he wrote underneath his video, and boy, you'd think, when he wrote this, I think this guy was about ready to explode. But in the video itself, he's actually pretty calm. But again, you've got like a video that's a little over 4 minutes, and if you count a stupid little, oh, how you doing? My name's Dave. And he gets maybe 2 minutes of actual talking about the subject, and he does, 3 sentences, and he has to cut away, and then the 3 sentences and cuts away, and and it's just the same crap. But there were no references underneath this. So we're going to give Dave a little fact check, and I've had this plan for a while, but I waited to where the final figures for at least fiscal year 2016 came out. So we're going to give old Dave another fact check and another boot right in the behind because he just runs on emotion and emotional appeals and throwing a little fit, not an argument. So enjoy all this, drink it in. I've got all the, unlike Dave, I actually provide sources, so look through it yourself. And and enjoy another slapdown of this uneducated, unhygienic moron. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's hammer Dave with some facts. For fiscal year 2017, we do not yet have the totals for aliens that were returned or removed. All the links are underneath, as per usual, so you can check this out. I'm looking at tables 1, 13, 20, 33, 36, and 39. Fiscal years overlap. For example, fiscal year 2009 began on October 1st, 08, and George W. Bush was president. On 1/20/09, Oboingo became president, and the fiscal year ended 9/30, September 30th, 09. I will be calculating this in full fiscal years only. For example, George W. Bush's full fiscal years were inaugurated January 20th, 01. His full fiscal years were 2002 through 2008. Fiscal year 2002 began October 1st, 2001 and ended September 30th, 2002. Fiscal year 2008 ended on September 30th, 2008. It's impossible to determine from this literature whether naturalizations or deportations happened under which president in fiscal years that overlap. So I am only looking at full fiscal years. Keep that in mind. Table 33, aliens apprehended. See the notes. Obama, fiscal years 2010 through 2016, his administration apprehended 3,803,031 illegal aliens. That's 543,290 per year. Not bad. Bush, fiscal years 2002 through 2008, aliens apprehended 7,874,829, works out to 1,124,975 per year. Clinton, fiscal years 94 through 2000. Clinton. They apprehended 10,883,982 illegal aliens. That works out to 1,554,854 per year. He led the way by far. By far. Reagan, fiscal years 82 through 88, 8,783,366, works out to 1,254,766 per year. Not bad. Bill Clinton, yeah, there you go. Dave wouldn't know that probably. In my opinion, most of the reason we have such a small number of apprehensions under Oboingo, despite the methodology being changed in favor of more apprehensions, again, see the notes, is because the economy remained flaccid during his entire presidency. We have more than 23,000 Border Patrol agents, which is more than quadruple the number in 1990. So I don't think that solved the problem. I don't think that adding thousands more will do much good. So again, Bill Clinton did a pretty good job of apprehending. And he was a Democrat, wasn't he? Yeah, he wasn't he wasn't as insane as Oboingo. The Democrat Party has really gotten insane to think that people can just march up to the border with bastard children in tow and say, free stuff. Yeah. Table 36, aliens determined inadmissible. Data only available for fiscal years 2005 through 2016, but for what it's worth. Aliens determined inadmissible, fiscal years 05 through 09, 899,938. That works out to 224,984 per year. Fiscal years 2010 through 2016. That's Oboingo. That's your Messiah, Oboingo, Dave. Aliens determined inadmissible, 1,385,349. Works out to 197,907 per year. Not bad for a Democrat. He must be racist, right, Dave? Table 39. Aliens returned or remove. See the notes on difference between a removal and a return. Basically, a return is a person who would be removed, but they leave before we can give them an order to be removed. A removal is someone who is physically grabbed and said, you are not here legally. Goodbye. Basically. That's the short version. Now, let's let the cat out of the bag before I begin reading this off. Obama, if you count just removals per year, led the way by far. Did you get that? Obama led the way by far if you count removals. Just removals per year. Just ICE or whatever. And before ICE, we were still removing aliens, and before the Department of Homeland Security, we were removing aliens. So I don't know why we even need the Department of Homeland Security. It's garbage. But anyways, Obama led the way in removals per year. In his full fiscal years, far more than Bush, Clinton, or Reagan. Here are the removals per year. I'll just read that off. For Obama, it turned out to 384,130. Bush, 260,501. Clinton, 118,157. Reagan, 18,824. Obama blew all their totals out of the water. Now, if you count returns and removals combined, Obama was the lowest. And I think that's because, number one, the economy was flaccid, so they weren't coming over. Let's just face it. Mexican doctors and lawyers and Guatemalan doctors and lawyers, any doctors, professionals from other countries, skilled people, unlike Dave, who is unskilled and brain dead, they aren't sneaking over the border. Now, I'm not saying everybody sneaking over the border is an unskilled idiot, but that's basically what most of them are. Now, under Obama, we weren't getting as many people coming over because the economy was stuck in a rut. And the ones that were here weren't leaving. So Obama had to go remove a bunch of them. So the few that were here, well, I shouldn't say few, but the ones that were here weren't leaving, so he had to go get them. Not as many were returning. But if you count returns and removals en masse, Clinton was first, over 11 million. Get that? Clinton was first, over 11 million, and over 10.1 million of them were returned. So Bill Clinton scared 10,177,849 illegal aliens into returning to their country of origin, or at least leaving the U.S. Not bad for a Democrat, huh? I guess Bill Clinton wasn't nearly as crazy on another issue as Obama. When you consider Bill Clinton is very close to what would be called lukewarm, or actually whatever middle of the road means compared to Obama. Bush was second, if you count returns and removals, 8,790,453. Reagan was third with 7,416,388, and Obama brought up the rear, 3,970,893. But if you count just removals per year, nobody comes close to Obama. Not bad for a racist Democrat, right, Dave? You knew that, didn't you, Dave? And again, returns and removals combined, Bill Clinton was way ahead of everybody. Over 11 million. He was more than 2 million ahead of Bush. Not bad for a Democrat. You didn't know that, did you, Dave? Dave, I'm going to clue you in on something. You're stupid. You are a dumbass. Quit making videos. You are an idiot. Every time you open your mouth, you shove your feet in it. Table 20. Petitions for naturalization filed, persons naturalized, and petitions for naturalization denied. Oh, boingo. Petitions filed, 5,667,374. Persons naturalized, 4,988,204. 88.01% of all petitioners were naturalized. Petitions denied, 491,655. 8.67% of all petitions denied. Naturalizations as a percentage of the entire U.S. population, 0.22%. Bush, and again, see the note on table 20 that I'm putting up, because the totals don't jive, and you'll wonder why. You'll wonder why the percentages don't jive. Well, that'll explain it. Bush, petitions filed, 5,129,208. Persons naturalized, 5,129,208 were petitions filed. Persons naturalized, 4,586,117. 89.41% of all petitioners naturalized. Petitions denied, 774,652. 15.1% of all petitions denied. And that's where in some years, the number of people naturalized was above the petitions, so I assume there's some lag there, but there's nothing I can do about it. So it might have been some people petitioning under Obama that it got pushed over when under Clinton and got pushed into the Bush administration. They denied it. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm just putting the numbers up. Naturalizations as a percentage of the entire U.S. population, 0.22%. So less than Obama. But Bush still, under Bush, almost 4.6 million people were naturalized. And he's an evil Republican. Those people who say this country is not open enough, I really, one of the most annoying thing about Gary Johnson, as an aside, I won't get off track on this very far. The most annoying thing about him was his open borders. I'm not open borders, but to people who say, it's tough to get in here, oh, baloney. Baloney. Clinton. Petitions filed, 6,352,650. Persons naturalized, 4,736,457. Only 74.55% of all petitioners were naturalized. Again, there's Bill Clinton, the hardliner. Much lower percentage of all petitioners were naturalized under Clinton than Bush and Obama. Oh, there's Bill Clinton, the hardliner. Petitions denied under Clinton, 1,364,204. 21.47% of all petitions were denied. Bill Clinton, the hardliner. Naturalizations as a percentage of entire U.S. population for that time frame, 0.25%. Reagan. Petitions filed, 1,743,119. Persons naturalized, 1,501,253. 86.12% of all petitioners were naturalized. Again, Bill Clinton looks like the hardliner. Petitions denied, 31,192. Only 1.78% of all petitions denied. So Bill Clinton looks completely like the hardliner there. That's the dirty little secret. Bill Clinton, when he was, I'm not saying if he was president again, hypothetically, I'm not saying he'd do the same things. But I'd have to say, in my honest opinion, Bill Clinton was a much better president than the last two we had. By far. I'll put it this way. Bill Clinton worked a lot better with a Republican Congress than Bush did. So, yeah, can we have Bill Clinton back, please, with some Republicans that are sane? Thank you. That's what I want for Christmas. I'd like to have Bill Clinton back with a Libertarian Congress. That would be a good Christmas present. Can I have it? No. I guess I can dream. Under Reagan, naturalizations as a percentage of the entire U.S. population, 0.09%. So it has gone up. Naturalizations as a percentage of the U.S. population since Reagan left office has gone way up. So you didn't know that either, did you, Dave? Stick that in your pipe and poof it, dumbass. Table 13, refugee arrivals. Data only available for fiscal years 1980 through 2016. Here, stingy old stupid U.S. And for refugees, I take the same tact that I do with wars abroad. It's none of our business unless we're attacked directly. So in other words, nation building in Afghanistan was a mistake. The entire Iraq war was a mistake. Occupation of the Crimean Peninsula, never authorized by Congress, big mistake. Libya, Syria, big mistake. So I take the same tact. If a civil war breaks out in some third world dunghole, it's not our job to go over there, unless they are a direct threat on our national security somehow. It's not our job to go over there and bring all these refugees in. Do you think we bring in 1 million Syrian refugees? Do you think the labor force participation rate is going to skyrocket? No, it's not. So, no, I don't want to be the refugee destination, and no, I don't want to spread democracy. Enough of that soapbox. I'm sorry. I apologize. For what it's worth, fiscal years 1980 through 2016, we took in 2,966,318 refugees, which averages 80,170 per year. Obama's average per year, fiscal years 2010 through 16, 68,949. That's a lot less. Only 482,649 during his presidency. Full fiscal years, he averaged 68,949 a year. So you'll see that since Reagan assumed office, the number of refugees we take in has dropped significantly. Bush only averaged 44,438 per year. Clinton was the only one above the average, 84,269 per year. Reagan only averaged 71,509 per year. So Obama was below Reagan and Clinton by a long shot. And Obama's average was well below the average from 1980 to 2016. So, yeah, you'll see there. So I guess maybe was Obama racist? Was he? So, per table, here's in that last one. Last one. Table 1. I'm sorry about that. Table 1, persons obtaining lawful permanent resident status. Lawful permanent residents, LPRs, from here on, are persons who have been granted lawful permanent residence in the United States. They are also known as green card recipients. Fiscal year 2010 through 2016, Barry Obozo, persons obtaining lawful permanent resident status, LPRs, 6,346,272, works out to 906,610 per year. LPRs is a percentage of U.S. population in that time frame, 0.28%. Bush, Obama was a little over 6.3 million. Bush, 7,268,708, works out to 1,038,386 per year. So Bush outdid Oboingo. Barry must be a racist, right, Dave? LPRs is a percentage of U.S. population under Bush, 0.35%. So Bush outdid Oboingo. Clinton, 5,376,572, works out to 768,081 per year. LPRs is a percentage of U.S. population, 0.28%. So there's Bill Clinton, the hardliner again, not letting as many people in. You know, the U.S., we don't let enough people in here. Don't work. I basically got closed borders, according to some kooks. No, we don't. Evidently, we're open enough that 1 million people can get in every year under Bush and become LPRs. Clinton. Oh, we already did Clinton. Yeah, Clinton, he's that hardliner who deported, had over 11 million people leave the country during his presidency because he scared the crap out of them, thinking they're going to get arrested. Reagan, 4,034,898 LPRs during his 7 full fiscal years. That works out to 576,414 per year. LPRs is a percentage of the U.S. population, 0.24%. So, Bush led the way there. Obama was second. Bill Clinton was a distant third, and Reagan was an even more distant fourth. So, there's some surprising things there. Again, Obama led the way in removals per year of illegal aliens, and that's because most of them didn't want to leave, and part of the reason, the economy stunk, so they weren't coming. If there's no jobs, they're not going to show up. You don't see people pouring into Guatemala by the millions. You don't see people pouring into Sri Lanka by the millions, and if they are, they're really desperate. You don't see people streaming over the North Korean border for jobs, because there are no jobs. So under Obozo, it slowed down because the economy stunk. His entire presidency, the economy was limp as a boned fish, to use a Lord of the Rings term. But he did a good job of removing them. And again, removals per year during his presidency were a lot higher than anybody else. And so I guess that makes him a racist, right, Dave? And then Bill Clinton, you look through the data, and Bill Clinton was more of a hardliner. Bill Clinton wasn't as crazy, nearly as crazy as Obama. So there's some actual data for you with links, which in contrast to Dave's stark raving lunacy and frothing at the mouth insanity, I win again, Dave. Every time, everything I choose to engage you in, you will lose. So, again, it was a pleasure beating you down. Have a nice day, and don't thank me now for the facts, idiot. Progressives who definitely need a lifetime supply of prophylactics. And gentlemen, it's time for some more uncomfortable statistics. And this entire video won't be about California per se, but this will be why ever wonder why California is a mess part 2. We have a lack of personal responsibility in this country, and I'm going to give you some more uncomfortable statistics, and this is in the wake of progressives having autistic fits over Trump actually wanting to do something right, a merit-based immigration system rather than an immigration system done via a lottery, an immigration system designed to bring in families and refugees, because it's, the business of America is business, not being a charity case. And I'll mention this again. Immigrants who came here in the 1910s and 1920s didn't have a welfare state to take advantage of. And they came here, they learned English, they got jobs, they had families, they had the intact family structure. So California won't be the main thrust of this, but it will dovetail with part of the reason California has turned into a giant toilet. And people like, who's that Roman Polanski supporter, that guy with a fat face, face bloat, Stan Seder, probably thinks California is a great place to be, but it's not. California's the Mississippi of the West. It's just that people in Mississippi have a little more class. No offense to my friends in Mississippi. So let's look at this first. I'll have all the references. I'm going to put it in a note over on my Facebook page, Old Fart Rants Debunked. I'll put it in a note, and I'll put all the links and the commentary in a note that you can read this along with this video. So we go to table 401.60. Most of my sources are from the National Center for Education Statistics. I also utilize the Census Bureau. But again, all the links are there. This is not a video by like Old Fart Rants or McCain X or Stan Seder where there are no references. And they just make a series of just so statements. And you're going to believe us because we repeat it a lot. No. Table 401.6, U.S. Department of Education appropriations for major programs by state or jurisdiction, fiscal years 2012 through 2016. Language assistance or English language acquisition. If you read through the literature, you'll see it called language assistance or English language, I got to move this, acquisition. From fiscal year 2012 through 2016, California received $759 million for language assistance or English language acquisition classes from federal taxpayers. That's $759 million. So taxpayers in Iowa, the ones who actually do pay taxes, are sending money to California to teach people English who, a lot of them aren't going to, as you'll see, don't finish school and have no skills. So money well spent. But you're selfish. You're selfish if you don't want to do that for some reason. Table 107% of high school dropouts, status dropouts, among persons 16 to 24 years old by sex and race ethnicity, but I'm looking at race and ethnicity. I'm ignoring gender because there are only two genders, and I'm ignoring the genders. This is for years 1998 through 2001, table 107. The cumulative average for 1998 through 2001 in the U.S. percent of high school dropouts, status dropouts among persons 16 to 24 years old. 1998 to 2001, cumulative U.S. average 11.2%. 1998 to 2001, cumulative average for those of Hispanic origin, 28.2%. 28.2%. 11.2% for all races in the U.S., 28.2% Hispanic origin. And it's not a lack of federal spending that's causing that. If we just spend $1 trillion more, sounds like a Republican wanting more war. Sounds like John McCain. If we just spend a couple $100 billion more in Iraq, it'll be a success. And if I autistically repeat that all day, it'll be true. They're just like John McCain, except this is education for people who may never learn English, and if they do, they'll drop out of high school. And if they're in California, they'll join a gang and then probably get Medicaid, and a good chance that they don't have a father. Tough love, people. Tough love. Some people need tough love. Table 219.80, percentage of high school dropouts among persons 16 to 24 years old. And number of status dropouts by non-institutionalized or institutionalized status, birth in or outside of the U.S., and selected characteristics. This is for years 2010 through 2016. I also had a note. You are far more likely to not be in the labor force if you dropped out of high school, more than twice as likely than if you finished high school. So there we go. California brings in hundreds of thousands of unskilled immigrants. A large portion of them drop out of high school. They are out of the labor force, and what? Nancy Pelosi is going to give them what? Free Medicaid? Vote for me. I'll give you free Medicaid and free food stamps if you vote for me. So again, percentage of high school dropouts among persons 16 to 24 years old. The cumulative average in the U.S. from 2010 through 2016 for all races was 6.8%. 2010 through 2016, 6.8% for all races. 2010 through 2016 cumulative average for those of Hispanic origin, 12.2%. Not quite double, but still very high. So you can see why California, unfortunately, has a lot of immigrants who didn't finish high school, and who knows how many of them actually want to work. A lot of them aren't even in the labor force. It's not that they're unemployed looking for a job. They are out. They are completely out of the labor force. Is that white privilege causing that? And I couldn't get, every year, I couldn't find data for every single year for those in the category of what I've just talked about, but drilling it down to those born outside of the United States and of Hispanic origin, 2011, 2012, and 2014 through 2016, the cumulative average for that group, again, for those born out of the United States and of Hispanic origin, percentage of high school dropouts among persons age 16 through 24, for those born out of the U.S., Hispanic origin, 21.5%. So line up 5 of these people. For you progressives listening, if you line up 5 of these people, more than one, I know you can't have like 1.2 people, but you know what I mean. Maybe you don't. You are progressives. You're not very bright. 21.5%. That's more than 1 in 5. And it's not a lack of California spending, which I've covered in other videos. It's not a lack of education spending. It's not a lack of federal subsidies. Skip over some of this, but hit the high points. California ranks number 1 among the 50 states for the percentage of its residents 25 and older who have never completed 9th grade. Again, California ranks number 1 among the 50 states. Now, this is California, progressive stronghold. Smart, progressive people. Mississippi's got dumb, toothless rednecks. California ranks number 1. Them Southern Republicans are stupid, and they ain't got no teeth. California ranks number 1 among the 50 states for the percentage of its residents 25 and older who have never completed 9th grade, and 50th for the percentage who have graduated from high school, according to new data from the Census Bureau. Now, California does have a high percentage of people who have 4-year degrees or better, so it's like feast or famine out there. They're either getting a 4-year degree, and if you get a degree in sociology, you might as well have just never gone to college and just gotten a real job. So it's feast or famine out there. They're either dropping out of high school and then dropping out of the labor force, or they're getting a 4-year degree and then maybe they're working the cash register, or maybe they're getting a 4-year degree and they're a registered libertarian and they're making a lot of money because they went into marketing or something. But the Southerners, them Southern Republicans are stupid. They're thumping the Bible and they got no teeth and they're chewing tobacco. Yeah. Turning to table 104.70, number and percentage distribution of 6 to 18-year-olds by parents' highest level of educational attainment. Number and percentage distributions of 6 to 18-year-olds by parents' highest level of educational attainment, household type, and child's race, ethnicity. And in the older literature, as I went through a lot of this, it is table 12. percentage distribution of 6 to 18-year-olds by parents' highest level of educational attainment, household type, and child's race, ethnicity. Now, I covered 2006. I covered 2008. I covered 2010. I covered 2011, 2013, and 2016. And the categories I covered in all those years, and I'll give you the cumulative total, both household types in one category, single parent and two parent households, and all ethnic groups, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, etc. And I covered two parent households with all ethnic groups, single parent households, all ethnic groups, two parent households, Hispanic, and single parent household, Hispanic. Since California is one of the states with a very high proportion relative to the national average of Hispanics as a total of the entire population in mass. And one thing that kind of is scary and jumps out is the two-parent household Hispanic cumulative average. This is less than high school completion. I should have mentioned that too. I apologize. Less than high school completion for all those categories, both household types, single and two-parent, etc., all ethnic groups, and then this is the percentages for less than high school completion. Now, in the two-parent households for Hispanics and those years covered, 26% reported parents' highest educational attainment as less than high school completion. 26% for two-parent households. For single-parent households and Hispanics, it jumps up to 36.5%. So, you can see that if you're in a two-parent household, the educational outcomes, this isn't always true, but on average, the educational outcomes of the parents is going to be a lot better. And I urge you to go through the data. Look at Asians. Look at how well Asians are doing. Look how much more likely you are in a two-parent Asian household to have both of your parents got degrees. Now, if your parents dropped out of high school, that doesn't mean you're doomed, but I'm just putting this data up. So, two-parent household for Hispanics, the cumulative average less than high school completion of the parents was 26%. When it's single-parent Hispanic, it jumps up to 36.5%. Now, both household types, all ethnicities, it was only 11%. Two-parent households, all ethnicities, 7.2%. Single-parent households, all ethnicities, in the years examined, 18.6% less than high school completion. So you can see the two-parent Hispanics average, parents having less than high school completion, is a lot higher than the single-parent households among all ethnicities. So we have a signal there. People aren't assimilating very well. All this education spending, by golly, if we just spend a couple $100 billion more, I bet if we throw another $300 billion into Mississippi's education system, they're just going to be producing Einsteins. No. So that's kind of that's a distressing signal there. And California has a lot of, unfortunately, truth hurts, Hispanics who don't finish high school. Here's more uncomfortable data. Butthurt remind. Now, if you respond to this, somebody, you probably should do it by video because I don't debate sock puppet accounts, but yelling, being butthurt, and having a little autistic fit doesn't constitute an argument. More uncomfortable data, out-of-wedlock birth rates in states with higher than average Hispanic populations. I covered this previously for California and New Mexico. It's worth revisiting. Births to unmarried women by race and Hispanic origin of mother. Births to unmarried women by race and Hispanic origin of mother. So, I'm not going to cover all this. I'll give you the high points. California, all races, because all these states have a higher than average Hispanic population. California average, all races, 2010 through 2017, 39.25% of all births were to unmarried women. And we know the family is important to progressives because how long did we hear them caterwaul about homosexual marriage? Although they don't want to totally liberalize marriage because the Mormons and Muslims aren't as equal as the homosexuals right now. But anyways, So family is important. Marriage is important to these people. But 39.25%, which California is actually lower than the national average, sadly. It's so bad California is actually looking decent. All races, 39.25% from 2010 to 2017. 39.25% of all births in California were to unmarried women. It's amazing. Like in the 40s and 50s, this was looked at as, that's not really a good thing to do, kind of shameful, and now MTV promotes it. And sick people do it over and over again. A lot of people that should not be reproducing. California Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 52.8%, so stridently higher than the state average. But is it higher than the national average? Stay tuned. New Mexico average, all races, 2010 through 2017, 51.73%. More than half of all the births in New Mexico in that 8-year period were to unmarried women. No wonder New Mexico has a lot of poor people. New Mexico Hispanic for that same time frame, 57.95%. I found, amazingly, New Mexico Black was only 55.41%, which was a lot lower than the black average nationally for that time frame. But in New Mexico, 57.95% of all Hispanic births were to unmarried mothers. But that's white privilege or something. Texas average, all races, 2010 through 2017, 41.8%. Texas Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 50.6% of all births were to unmarried women. Arizona average, all races, 2010 to 2017, 45.1%. That's 45.1% of all births there were to unmarried women. Irresponsible people. My gosh, these people that are doing this, do you like, is there like a courtship of more than maybe a couple days here or something, possibly? Do you know how to use a condom? Are you that stupid? If you don't know how to use a condom, you probably shouldn't be having sex. I'm just saying that, for everybody generally. Arizona Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 56.6% of all births, Hispanic births, were to unmarried women. White privilege. Nevada average, all races, 2010 through 2017, 46%. Nevada Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 54.2%. A lot of fatherless children out there. Now, that doesn't mean that all the daddies were absentee. But remember, marriage is important to these people. So if you can't take the public step of telling your baby mama that I'm going to marry you and be with you the rest of my life, yeah, tells me you might be in trouble. And if you have an absentee father, that doesn't mean you're doomed, but every child needs a father. So you're behind the 8 ball, but that's white privilege or something. Florida average, all races, 2010 through 2017, 47.6%. Can you see this is just going on and on and on? This isn't like in a couple-year outlier where people then suddenly came to their senses. This has been going on for a while. Florida Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 50.9%. We notice a trend here. Holy moly. These people are not family-oriented. They're not responsible. This is what happens when you just bring in droves of unskilled people. I hate to tell you, it's not racist to point out the facts. Colorado average, this is the only state. Colorado, there's something in the water out there causing people to behave for the most part. Colorado average, all races, 23%. Yay, Colorado, you are way below the national average. Less than a quarter of all your births there. Despite having a higher than average Hispanic population, were out of wedlock. Colorado Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, only 34%, much lower than national average. Something in the water out there in Colorado. Kudos to Colorado. New Jersey, all races, 2010 through 2017, 35.3%. New Jersey Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 59.2%. Wow. 59.2% of all Hispanic births to Hispanic mothers were unmarried in New Jersey from 2010 through 2017. So if you were married and the child came out of the womb, that was like, did they have a parade? What is it with New Jersey? Wow. And overall, it was only 35.3%, but Hispanics are reproducing out there so much that it raised the state. Because New Jersey for whites, it was only 18.5%. Truth hurts. Dishonorable mention. That was it for the states with a higher than average Hispanic population. So an amnesty is not going to raise the labor force participation rate, and an amnesty will only make sure that people take advantage of the welfare state even further. We don't need a wall around the country, we need a wall around the welfare state. Pardon me for yelling. Dishonorable mention, District of Columbia. And if DC wasn't receiving so many billions and billions of taxpayer dollars and was this hub of the federal government where the lobbyists and other cockroaches and politicians and other reptilians hung out there, District of Columbia would literally be Detroit. Dishonorable mention, District of Columbia, all races 2010 through 2017, 50.8% of all births there were to unmarried women. District of Columbia Hispanic, 61.2%, much higher than the national average. District of Columbia Black, 2010 through 2017. 78.1%, much higher than the national average. District of Columbia White, 5.7%. Do you think maybe that's why some of the white people, of course, they may be lobbyists too, which would make them likely a cockroach. But you think that's maybe some of the white people in District of Columbia are a little financially better off because they're maybe better planners? 78.1% of black children born out of wedlock in the District of Columbia 2010 through 2017. 61.2% of Hispanics, but only 5.7% of whites. Can you believe that? What's the deal? What's the deal, people? Is there not enough money flowing into D.C.? Even Stan Seder couldn't say that with a straight face. And he's mentally ill. Dishonorable mention too, Mississippi average, all races 2010 through 2017, 54.07%. So Mississippi's outdoing the District of Columbia. Maybe, is that why Mississippi's got a lot of poor people? I don't know. If you have kids out of wedlock, daddy's not around, and you drop out of school, and there's a high STD rate there, I think that's why Mississippi sucks. Let's just be honest. Mississippi sucks. Thankfully, I do not live there. Mississippi Hispanic, 2010 through 2017, 54.52% of all births were out of wedlock. Unmarried women. Mississippi Black, 2010 through 2017. I went over this in my Why Ever Wonder Why Mississippi is a Mess video. 80.6% of blacks born out of wedlock, 2010 through 2017. That's why a lot of black people are poor there. If you drop out of school, you have children out of wedlock, you become an alcoholic, probably not going to succeed in life. Mississippi White, 2010 to 2017, 32.35%. Higher than all Mississippi. Mississippi is above and beyond. When it comes to failures, Mississippi is right up there. U.S. average all races 2010 through 2017, 40.36%. That's really high. That's sad. USA average Hispanic 2010 through 2017, 53%. If you're making $7.25 an hour and running a cash register, don't have kids yet. If that's going to be your career, don't have kids. If you're smart enough, like most people, to move on to something else, get a better job later, then have the kids. But don't have it to an absentee daddy while you're making $7.25 an hour, working a cash register, and then have a kid and then wonder why I'm broke. USA average Hispanic 2010 through 2017, 53%. USA average white 2010 to 2017, 29%. USA average black 2010 through 2017, 71.1%. The black community has destroyed the nuclear family, and that's your fault. In the states that I cover that have a much larger than average Hispanic population, note, make sure you take a gander at all the census, race, ethnicity designations. California, New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Colorado, and New Jersey, the Hispanic out of wedlock birth rate was 52%. The only state that was not any sort of outlier was Colorado. The overall average for all races in those states, births to unmarried women, 41.2%. So that's higher than the national average slightly. Sans Colorado, the average was 54.6%. for Hispanic, which is slightly above the national average. Put it this way, it doesn't matter. Most states, the Hispanic community, a lot of unmarried births. And if that's the case, you're not planning your family. For all races in those states, sans Colorado, it was 43.8%. America has a problem. We have a lot of unskilled or at least very irresponsible immigrants failing to finish high school, dropping out of the labor force, and having children who don't finish high school drop out of the labor force. And Bernie Sanders is there with your wallet to save the day. We will need doctors and nurses to take care of the boomers. So if there's doctors and nurses in Mexico that are qualified to do the work and the hospitals will hire them, bring them. Bring them in. If they don't speak English and they have no skills and they dropped out of school in the 8th grade and they have AIDS or HIV, no thanks. I'll get to that in a second about everybody having merits. A merit-based immigration is something I've been in favor for a long time. Jobs are merit-based, always have been. A meritocracy in the workplace, and this is where it gets kind of sad for some people. A meritocracy in the workplace dictates that the best employees get better schedules, better pay, and promotions. Imagine that. If you're a slacker, you're not going to get promoted and you're not going to get a good raise. Oh my gosh, when did that start? That's been around as long as people have been around. If you can't run the forklift, if you can't drive the truck, if you can't get enough units per hour, then guess what? They will find something else for you to do or let you go. If you can't manage the production floor effectively and it's an organized chaos, someone else will do it for you. Immigration should be no different. There's nothing wrong with a meritocracy because the business of America is business, not global or domestic handouts. I've said it many times before. I will say it again. America's people were voting for crazy people like FDR and Truman back in the 40s and 50s with one important caveat. The people voting for them themselves weren't crazy, and they practiced that lost craft called personal responsibility. Many of those folks were those who emigrated to these United States from Europe in the 1910s and 1920s. These folks didn't have a welfare state to take advantage of, even if they were privy to doing so. They learned English, they integrated. They learned English if they didn't know it prior. They integrated, they built families, and most important, the family unit was largely intact. Many of those folks were part of the greatest generation that helped us win World War II and turned America into an economic powerhouse. These folks also, unfortunately, voted in polls like FDR, Truman, and LBJ, socialists who started this grand welfare state, which is now costing you trillions. That all started to change in the 60s, and here we are seeing the nuclear family crumbling, and a lot of emasculated soy boys like Bernie Sanders, Stan Seder, old face bloat Stan Seder, Bill Maher, Bruce Jenner, and beta male O'Rourke. I blame we the people as much as I blame the cockroaches in Washington. There are a lot of folks in this country that need some tough love, some personal responsibility, and probably a lifetime supply of condoms and IUDs. If you're in a single-parent household, you are not doomed. Nobody is saying that. However, those in single-parent households are more likely to have an absentee father or mother as opposed to regular visits or shared living arrangements. And those in single-parent households, especially those who were not born here, are more likely to drop out of high school, far more likely to live with a parent who has no education, and far, far more likely to not be in the labor force. So what good would it do to bring in hundreds of thousands of people who aren't going to participate in the labor force? You tell me. This is a huge problem. It's also become an expensive problem as taxpayers are held hostage by those who seek to buy Peter's vote with Paul's money. I'm talking about you, Bernie, you toothless hillbilly. Ergo, we do need to shift from a family and refugee immigration program to an economic and merit-based immigration system. This is where responding to Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi says, nobody is without merit. No. Folks who have HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, STDs, gang affiliations, lack of a family structure have no business being here. If we didn't have an extravagant welfare state / cradle-to-grave entitlement structure, this would be less of a problem. And Republicans and Democrats aren't going to do anything about entitlements. It's going to continue on autopilot, vote libertarian. You've been warned. But we do have those obstacles to deal with, and bringing in more unskilled labor that isn't participating in the labor force isn't going to solve our oncoming economic problems. It will exacerbate them. It's not racist to point out that California has a lot of unskilled Hispanics in single-parent households that aren't participating in the labor force. Merit-based immigration would solve much of that. It's not racist to point out that many of them are on welfare and have been for generations. It's not racist to point out that California's public education system is failing all ethnic groups there, especially Hispanics and blacks. Just as it's not racist to point out that Mississippi has a lot of white trash that have kids out of wedlock, no family structure, dropping out of high school, high illiteracy rates, and lots of STDs. Just as it's not racist to point out that Mississippi's black residents are usually poor because daddy isn't around. It's not racist to point out the truth. But some in this age of massive political correctness want to make it that way and shout down anyone who dares oppose them. I guess if white privilege, and if you look at the data, maybe Asian privilege too, those dang Asians, they're so smart and responsible. Dang them. I guess if white privilege means I had two parents that were always around, always worked, always gave me more love than I deserved, and always provided for me, then I am guilty as charged. Bill Maher is right about one thing, all I disagree how he arrives at this conclusion, and I will amend his quote slightly. Bill Maher is right about one thing. Many Americans, including Bill Maher, are ignorant and very irresponsible and stupid. It's not my fault whites in Mississippi are failing, and it's certainly not my fault that California, bringing in droves of unskilled Hispanics, is failing. Our current immigration system is failing Asian and Hispanic immigrants who are educated, who do have two-parent households, who are practicing that lost art called personal responsibility. As far as most progressives go who disagree with me, void of facts, it's easy to be conspicuously compassionate. That's you, Stan Seder, when you do not. And Bernie Sanders. It's easy to be conspicuously compassionate when you do not pay the cost. Have a nice day, and you have been warned.
A hypocrite.